For another episode of Johnny Talks Football. I'm here to discuss my reaction to this year's semifinal games of the college football playoff. Now, truthfully, I thought these games were going to be exciting, but it turns out they were just blowouts. So let's just get to the recaps. Let's start with the first one. Clemson trying to stay undefeated, taking on Oklahoma. It started off very promising for Oklahoma, scoring a touchdown on the opening drive. But then that's when Clemson started to get some momentum going. I think what originally started Clemson's momentum was that fake punt in the second quarter. But then Oklahoma had momentum going into the half with the interception in the end zone. Then as soon as Clemson came out of the locker room for the second half, they scored first on the opening possession. And then Oklahoma went for it on 4th and 1 from the 30-yard line. Clemson's 30-yard line, by the way. And Samaje Perine got stuffed. That's when Clemson started to take control of the game. Now, Oklahoma had injuries throughout this game, so let's point that out. Samaje Perine went down twice in that game. Joe Mixon, the second-string running back, went down. And I think it was about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, Baker Mayfield went down. So even if Oklahoma didn't have those injuries, I don't think they were playing as good enough as they wanted to win. There were some questionable calls that went against Oklahoma's way. Like there should have been a pass interference call, and I'm not sure when it was, but I'm not sure if it would have necessarily affected the game as Clemson still went on to win 37-17. On to the next one, the Cotton Bowl. Alabama taking on Michigan State. This game started off pretty defensive heavy. It was 0-0 after the end of the first quarter. Then that's when Alabama started to turn on the Jets. Derrick Henry scored the first touchdown of the game. It was with about 5 minutes left until the half. And then Alabama tacked on a field goal quickly after. But then Connor Cook had an opportunity to take Michigan State down the field, but it was intercepted at around the 3 or 2 yard line. Intercepted by Cyrus Jones. And then Michigan State could not score at all. And the second half was just all Alabama. In fact, it was all Alabama ever since the halfway point of the second quarter. Alabama rolled on to a 38-0 victory. So as you can see, I'm pretty disappointed as a huge fan of college football with the games that we had today. The Peach Bowl earlier with Houston and Florida State, that was more competitive to me because Houston had a lot to prove, and I said in my prediction video that Houston would have enough motivation to win the game. And they did. Which brings me to this point. I think a 4-team playoff is just not enough. I think we need to extend this to 8. If it was extended to 8 teams, here's how it probably would have worked out. We would have had Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, and Oklahoma as the top 4, of course. Then 5, we would have had Iowa. 6, we would have had Ohio State. Then 7, we would have had Stanford. And then 8, there would have been an argument between Notre Dame and Florida State. But in the end, the committee would have chosen Notre Dame because of the strength of schedule they had. Only losing by 2 points to both Clemson and Stanford would have been in the 8-team playoff. And Florida State lost to Georgia Tech on a blocked field goal ran back for a touchdown and by 10 points to Clemson. And here's how it probably would have worked out. Clemson would have, of course, chosen to go down to Miami. Alabama would have chosen the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans because that's where most of their fans have been drawn to. Michigan State would have chosen Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. And then at number 4, Oklahoma would have chosen going down to the Cotton Bowl because more of their fans would show up. And then we'd have Oklahoma, Iowa play for that Cotton Bowl, which I think Oklahoma would have won that. Then we would have had Clemson, Notre Dame in a rematch. I think it was week 6 it was. And I still think Clemson would have won the second time around. We would have had Alabama and Stanford. I think that would have been a more competitive game than Michigan State and Alabama was tonight. But I think Alabama would have still won. They would have been able to contain Christian McCaffrey. Probably would have been a defensive battle, probably a low-scoring game, but I think Alabama would have still got it done. Then we would have had a rematch between Michigan State and Ohio State, and this time I think Ohio State would kick the crap out of Michigan State, because Michigan only beat Ohio State because it was sloppy conditions that day, and on a nice, clean, neutral field, and with clean weather. Ohio State would obviously beat Michigan State, just by the way Michigan State has looked all season. Anyway, that's your video. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.